Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for watching and for subscribing. And if you're just visiting, please consider subscribing. A couple of months ago, I did a video on my fragrance storage and organization. And in that video, I mentioned that my full collection videos will be coming a little bit later in the year. And it's this time now. I will be sharing with you my entire collection. As you can imagine, my collection is very large, and so of course this will not fit into one video. There will be a series of videos. How many parts exactly? I'm not sure at this point. I guess you will find out. Now, before I start going through my collection, I want to mention a couple of quick things. One, I did my entire collection videos last year, probably at the very beginning of my channel, which was almost exactly a year ago. And of course, since then, my collection has gone through quite a transformation. A lot of the fragrances left, a lot of the fragrances came in. And so it definitely makes sense to do an updated collection because it is quite different from what it was a year ago. Also, when I did it the first time, I just picked fragrances randomly. But this time, I'm going to be a little bit more organized. I've organized my fragrances alphabetically, and that's how I'm going to share them with you. I just think it makes more sense this way, and it's easier if any of you are interested in, looking up for fragrances from a specific house, then you can easily find them. Also, because I have so many bottles to go through, of course, I'm not going to go into a lot of details about each one. I'm not going to share with you all the notes, just going to show you the bottles and, say a few words about the scent. And the last thing is, I'm sure you can see my fragrance cabinet behind me, which is looking pretty sad and empty. And of course, that's because probably almost half of my collection is in front of me, getting ready to be shown in this video. So yeah, the cabinet is not looking the best, but there is a good reason for it. So without wasting any more time, let's start with the first letter of the alphabet, which is, of course, the letter A. So the first house that I have starting from the letter A is Amore Oud, and I have one fragrance from this house, and that is Silk Root. This fragrance has a lot of notes, but at the end, when they're all put together, this really smells to me like an amazing array of Middle Eastern desserts. Delicious, sweet, and smoky. This is a really underrated scent, and it is gorgeous. Second house, starting from the letter A, is Annick Goutal. And the fragrance that I have is Tenue des Soirées. This fragrance is about patchouli and about either toffee or caramel. Right now, I don't remember, but it's a really sweet patchouli. I think there is a little bit of raspberry in here as well, kind of reminiscent of Jimmy Choo, but I think a slightly more elegant and understated version. Next, I have a house of Al Haramain, and there are two fragrances. One, Al Haramain Amber Oud Gold. This is a dupe of Xerge of Herba Pura. It's a sweet, musky, juicy explosion of fruits, a beast of a fragrance, has to be used in moderation. I really enjoy this one and use it quite often. The other one that I have is Amber Oud Rouge, which is a dupe of Baccarat Rouge 540. I think it's a very close dupe. And although it is part of my collection, you know that I don't really enjoy the scent. I don't really wear it, but my husband loves it and wears it all the time. Next house, starting with an A, is Atelier des Ors, and I have three fragrances from this house. Let's start with Choir of Angels, which comes from the white collection with white caps. This one is mostly about blood orange and honey. To me, it kind of smells like some kind of candy. My daughter says it smells like Sour Patch Kids. I think she's kind of on the right path. It definitely has a candy smell. It is very happy, very girly, very cheerful type of scent, not too overpowering, which makes it good for any type of weather. The other one that I have is probably the most popular scent from this house. This is Lune Feline, a scent that I struggled with when I originally got it, but eventually fell in love with. This is a very, very smoky, spicy vanilla. It has a very strong note of cardamom, which was giving out sort of this burnt rubber vibe when I first got it, but the more I wore it, the more this kind of scent disappeared. And now all I get is very deep, rich, smoky, spicy vanilla. Gorgeous. And the last one I have from this house is one of my top favorite fragrances. This is Rouge Soleil. So this fragrance is mostly about dates, plums, vanilla, and some woody notes. So it is a really sweet, woody dates fragrance. Absolutely love it. Like I said, one of my top picks. Next house is Al Rehab, and I have Choco Musk. This is a sweet gourmand scent that smells like sweet pastry, sort of reminiscent of Lyra from Xerjoff or Love and Crime from Ex Italo. This is really for gourmand lovers. It is very, very sweet, but kind of an affordable version, I would say, of Xerjoff Lyra. And the next one is the House of Amouage, and I only have one fragrance from this house, which is Sunshine. I have sampled quite a lot of fragrances from this house. I would say majority of the fragrances from the women's line, and unfortunately, most of them really don't work for me. They're just too strong, too strange, but this one is a stunner. The most prominent notes here are tobacco, white tobacco, and osmanthus. And osmanthus is giving out a smell of apricots. So to me, this smells like sweet apricot jam with a little bit of tobacco smoke. This is, again, a stunner of a fragrance with a beastly performance. And the last house starting with an A is Armani. And I don't know if it's A or maybe I should have done G, Giorgio Armani. I don't know. But I'm going with Armani, so including it in A's. So the first one that I have is one of my newer acquisitions. This is Si Le Parfum, a fragrance that really, really shocked me in the best possible way. This is stunning. This is a combination of rich blackcurrant jam mixed with very sweet red wine. This is deep, rich, opulent, amazing scent that really has niche quality, I think. And the second one that I have from Armani is from their Privé line. This is Pivoni Suju. This fragrance is, of course, about peonies. There's peony, rose, musk, some other notes, of course, but really, most of all, I get sweet, sparkly peony. Absolutely love this scent because peony is one of my favorite floral notes. Okay, let's move on to letter B. And the first one I'm going to share with you is from Balenciaga, my all-time favorite, Flora Botanica, the fragrance that I've had for many, many years. Not this bottle, of course, but previous bottles. This is the most unique rose scent, in my opinion. It's a very dry rose and slightly minty rose. There's also a note of cannabis in here, which I don't get. Overall, it's a minty, dry, sweet rose. Absolutely stunning. The next house that starts from the letter B is Bricourt, and I have, again, one fragrance from it, which is called Farah. Farah is a sweet gourmand that has a strong cinnamon note. It is kind of reminiscent of Ojan from Parfums de Marly, or actually a few other fragrances that I have, but again, this is a really, really nice scent. Not many people talk about it, but I really, really enjoy it. The next house that starts with the letter B is Bottega Parfumera, and I have Gourmand. Now, this might look like a small bottle, which it is. It is 15 ml, but I included it in here because fragrances from this house come in two sizes. They come in 100 ml and 15 ml, so I'm kind of considering part of my full bottle collection. And by the way, I should have mentioned it at the beginning. I am just going to share with you my full bottles. I'm not sharing, travel sprays, decants, or anything like that, because that will take forever and I don't think it will be very interesting. So we're only going through full bottles. But again, because this is the size that it comes in, I'm including it in here. And as the name suggests, it is a gourmand. Really sweet, kind of slightly burnt sugar, burnt caramel kind of gourmand with a very unexpectedly beautiful performance. This is really a beast, a fragrance I spray, let's say in the evening, and when I wake up the next morning, I can smell it very, very vividly. Next house that we're gonna talk about is the house of Boucheron, and I have two fragrances from their private line. One of them is Amber d'Alexandrie. This is another one of those fragrances that is similar to Fair from Bricourt or Jean from Parfums de Marly. This is a sweet vanilla with cinnamon, but this one has more of an apple pie feel. It really smells like sweet apple pie. Amber in here is very sweet, very smooth, just the type of amber that I really enjoy. And the second one from this line that I have is Iris de Syracuse, obviously fragrance about iris. There are some other floral notes in here, of course. I think there is musk in here. I really don't remember all of the notes, but really the scent is about iris. At the beginning, in the opening, the scent is very fresh, even slightly green iris, and then as it develops, the iris becomes sweeter and a little bit more powdery, but it never crosses that line of becoming too sweet or too powdery, which is the type of iris that I really don't enjoy. This is a very elegant and sophisticated type of iris. Next house that starts with B is Bulgari, and the fragrance that I have is another iris scent. This is from their Splendida line, Iris Dior. This, in all honesty, is my absolute favorite iris scent. The iris in here is very green and fresh. It is slightly sweet, but it is not powdery at all. In addition to iris, there are, I believe, citruses in here, and they're actually green notes, and both are very, very evident. And they make this iris really fresh, really effervescent, really sparkly, and just very, very light. Not that the scent is light, but the iris in here is light. Anyways, I really, really enjoy this one. Next, let's go to the house of BDK Parfums, and I have three fragrances from this house. The first one is Possessoir. This is probably my current favorite from this house, and that's because, of the warm weather that we're having. This is a sweet fruity scent that has a very prominent note of quince. There are also some citruses and other fruits in here. I think there's vanilla and musk as well, along with a lot of other notes, but the most prominent note is quince, and it's a very sweet and juicy type of quince. The next one was my first acquisition from this house. This is Rouge Smoking. I don't know, I think this is probably the most well-known fragrance from this house. And this is all about cherry, but it's very sweet, smoky. For me, this is kind of deep cherry, definitely sweet, with maybe a small touch of booziness. Some people get, medicinal vibe from here. I don't. To me, this is a gorgeous sweet cherry. And the last one from this house that I have is Tabac Rose. And this is probably the most interesting scent from this house that I have tried. It is originally in the opening, it has kind of plums with patchouli and a little bit of tobacco smoke, and then in a dry down it almost changes completely, and the rose comes out and the chocolate comes out, and so you get this chocolate covered rose still with a touch of patchouli and a touch of tobacco smoke. Really, really interesting scent, gorgeous. Next, I have a fragrance from Bentley. I think this is called Intense for Men. This is a fragrance marketed towards men. I purchased it for myself, although I will admit to you that my husband has started wearing it more than me, but I enjoy the scent as well. This is it. There are a lot of notes in here, including many that I really don't get along with, but when all of them are put together, this comes out as sweet, boozy, woody vanilla. Especially the longer it sits on the skin, the deeper and the sweeter it becomes, but it never crosses the line of being too sweet. This is a very, very affordable fragrance, but I think the quality of it is much higher than the price. The next house that I have starting from B is Byron Parfums, and I have Mula Mula Rouge Extreme. This is very new to my collection, but I have really been enjoying using it. This fragrance is mostly about fruits. There is, I think, strawberry, raspberry. There's a little bit of oud in here, and there's a very strong note of caramel. So you really get these red berries or red fruits covered with caramel, and then a touch of woodiness and strength that's coming from oud. Really gorgeous fragrance. I think it deserves the hype that it gets. And I actually think that was the last fragrance that starts with B. So let's move on to letter C. And the first house that I have that starts with that letter is Carolina Herrera. And I have two fragrances from this house, one from their regular line and one from their private collection. So the first one is Good Girl. This fragrance, I would say, is floral, slightly gourmand fragrance. There are a lot of floral notes in here, including tuberose, which I don't like, but I don't really get it in here. There's also cacao, coffee, vanilla, I think tonka, a lot of other notes. For me, this is definitely a going out fragrance. It has that kind of chocolatey coffee vibe mixed together with florals, which kind of gives me a bit of a plum smell, sweet plums. So that's what I get out of it. For me, this is not a fragrance that I can wear on a daily occasion. This is more of going out type of scent. And the second one that I have, and this one is from their private line, this is called Nightfall Patchouli. And this fragrance, even though it is called patchouli, is not really all that much about patchouli. Patchouli in here is very chocolatey. There's also cinnamon in here. There's, I think, tonka in here. And this is another scent that is similar to Parfums de Marly Aujan, to Fair from Bricourt, even in some ways to Amber d'Alexandrie from Boucheron. All of them are kind of that cinnamony, sweet, slightly chocolatey type of scent. Very comforting and very beautiful scent. Next one that I have is from Chopard, again from their private collection. This is called Miel d'Arabie. I've spoken about this scent several times recently, and that's because this is really a stunner. It has honey, it has pomegranate, it has tea, and it really smells like this raw honey with a little bit of pomegranate and a little bit of tea. It is very interesting scent. It almost has a slight zesty vibe. The tea note is there, but it's not too strong. So I would say for those that maybe not huge fans of tea, I would still recommend trying it, because tea is not really the main player here. It's mostly honey and pomegranate, and I would say I really smell some citrusy vibes in here as well. This is really gorgeous. The next house is the House of Creed, and I actually only have one fragrance from this house, but I absolutely love it. This is Virgin Island water, an absolute must for the summer, I think. This is so delicious, so juicy. It has coconut, it has sugar, rum, lime or bergamot, anyway, some kind of citruses, and it just smells like an exotic drink, probably pina colada. It definitely transports you to some beach, sitting by the water, enjoying the sun. Absolute must for the summer. Last house starting with C is Chanel. And it's interesting because before I started this series collection or obsession with fragrances. Chanel actually used to be my favorite fragrance house. I used to have the most fragrances from this house, and I've kind of sort of stepped away from this house a little bit because, I've been exploring so many other fragrance houses, but I still have 4 perfumes from Chanel. Let's start with Gabrielle. This is the original Gabrielle. This is a citrusy floral, I would say. There are a lot of floral notes, there are citruses. I think there are some fruity notes in here as well. It is not overly sweet, it is not overly floral, it's just a well-balanced fragrance, kind of easygoing, classy type of scent. Nothing extraordinary, but at the same time, quite beautiful. The second one that I have from this house is Coco Mademoiselle. And this is really a strong patchouli scent. Again, there are some florals in here, there are some fruits in here, but really the most prominent note is patchouli, and it's mostly patchouli mixed with florals, I think. Very, very strong scent. On me, this is quite a beast, not a fragrance that I can wear during the day. Definitely a going out scent. And, to be honest, I haven't worn it in a long time, but I have a feeling that I will come back to it one day. This is just, you can't, I don't know, I sort of feel like I can't declutter Chanel. There is something so classy about it, and something that I feel like every woman should have Chanel fragrances. So even though this hasn't been getting a lot of love, but it is definitely staying in my collection. And the last 2 that I have from Chanel are 2 fragrances from the Chance line. These are probably my oldest fragrances in my collection. We have Chanel Chance Eau Tendre and Chanel Chance Eau Fresh. And I'm showing them together because to me, they're quite similar. They're both very easygoing scents, easy reach, kind of a no-brainer type of scent. If you're not sure what to wear, you can grab either one of these. Eau Tendre, I would say, is more sweet and maybe a little bit fruity floral. Eau Fresh is kind of, fresher really, and it has a definite citrusy vibe. But overall, I would say they're somewhat similar. So you can see that I've used up a lot, but again, that was mostly before I started this, serious fragrance obsession. Haven't reached for them recently, but again, I'm sure that I will come back to them. And I think the last letter that we're going to cover today is the letter of D. And the first house starting from the letter D is Dolce & Gabbana, and I have 2 fragrances from this house. The first one is number 3, Les Impératrices. This is again a very easygoing summery scent. It has a very strong note of watermelon. It is incredibly refreshing, light, fruity, very young type of scent, but on a really hot day, I really, really enjoy it. I've considered decluttering the scent because I feel like maybe it is a little bit too young and because it doesn't have very good lasting power, but I always change my mind because the truth is I really enjoy this scent and I don't mind overspraying it in the summer. The second one that I have is I really, really enjoy. This is the only one. I think this is the original, the only one. They've come up with 2 flankers since, and I have sampled both. I enjoy one, I don't enjoy the other, but overall, this one is my favorite by far. This scent is mostly about coffee and caramel. I've mentioned before, it makes me think of Starbucks. Being in a Starbucks, smelling that coffee aroma, everyone is getting a different coffee drink and they kind of all mix together. This is what the scent makes me think of. And my second and last house, starting from D, is the house of Dior. I have 4 fragrances from this house. First, let's talk about Poison line. I have Hypnotic Poison, which is kind of a slightly powdery, almondy, vanilla type of scent with slight reminder of Play-Doh. Not exactly, but it's sort of going in that direction. To be honest, it's not one of my favorite scents. It's not a scent that I reach for very often, but I actually have a vintage bottle of Hypnotic Poison, and that's why I sort of don't want to declutter it. I'm keeping it, but it's not a scent that I reach for very often. The one scent that I prefer much more to Hypnotic Poison is Poison Girl, and I think this is the EAT version. I like this one so much more. This one is, again, it has sweet vanilla, but it also has orange in here, which makes it really, really nice. It kind of doesn't have that powderiness that Hypnotic Poison has, and it just feels kind of fresher, younger type of scent. It also definitely doesn't have Play-Doh vibe at all. So I really enjoyed this one of my favorites to wear to the office. The next one that I have from Dior is Escale or Portofino. I could be wrong. I think this is a discontinued and kind of hard to find scent. This one is citrusy, woody scent. It has citruses. They're not sweet, they're slightly tart and bitter, and there are definitely a lot of kind of green and woody notes. So this is a citrusy scent that I would say maybe slightly leans more masculine than feminine. And the last one, of course, is Fève Délicieuse from Dior. This one is mostly about tonka. You know, there are a lot of other notes, vanilla, I think some coffee or cacao notes. There's mint, which kind of makes an appearance very briefly in the opening, and then it disappears, and this just becomes rich, deep, slightly chocolatey tonka. Gorgeous, gorgeous scent. Really thrilled that I was finally able to find it. I think it was last year. So I think we're going to end part one here. Like I said, I don't want these videos to be super, super long. So we've gone through fragrances from the houses from A to D. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember to give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And please join me in part 2 of this fragrance collection videos. Thank you for watching. I will see you soon in my next video. Bye.